The cereal was already going soft by the time I understood what I was looking at. That's what I keep coming back to. Not the photograph, not the name in the article, the cereal, getting soft in the bowl while I sat there at my kitchen table at 7:15 in the morning, picking up my phone and putting it down and picking it up again, because some part of me already knew, and the rest of me needed a few more seconds before it had to know too. He didn't disappear. He ran. And I keep coming back to one thing. He ran from people. And some of those people, I'm starting to think some of those people were in my life. Are in my life. I don't know which tense is right anymore. I don't know which people. I'm figuring that out. Let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. I'm 29, I work in events management, which sounds more glamorous than it is. What it actually is, I know who needs to be where and when, and I make sure the things that need to connect at the right time actually connect at the right time. 300 guests and a product launch and a venue coordinator who is 20 minutes late and a floral delivery that arrives at the wrong entrance. You do not panic. You build a sequence. You find the thread. You pull. My job is logistics and my brain runs on timelines and connection points, and the specific pleasure of watching a complicated thing work because you made it work. I have been doing this job for 6 years, and I am good at it. And one of the ways I am good at it is that I can put things in compartments. Last night's event stays in last night. Today's planning does not carry the weight of yesterday's problems. I learned this early. You have to, or you collapse. And I got very efficient at it. A thing happens, you close it, you move forward. I put him in a compartment 3 years ago when he disappeared. That compartment is open now, and there is something in it I missed. His name was Daniel. That is not his name anymore. I found his new name in the case coverage, and I'm not going to use either one here. His old one because it is strange to say it now with what I know. His new one because it does not belong to me. He had dark hair that he cut too short and then let get too long and then cut again, cycling between two lengths that were both slightly wrong, and I used to tease him about this. He was 31 when I knew him. He would be 34 now. He is 34 now. He exists somewhere. I know this because I saw his shoulders in a news photograph at 7:15 on a Tuesday morning, and my body recognized them before my brain did. We were together for 2 years and 3 months. He disappeared, ran, left, was extracted, whatever the right word is, on a Tuesday in November. I remember the Tuesday because I had an event that day, and the event had a problem with the catering timeline, and I was managing that problem from my phone while he was not answering his phone, which I assumed was because he was at work. He was not at work. He was doing whatever a person does on the day they stop being who they were. I found out he was gone the following morning. I want to be precise about this. He did not leave a note. He did not send a message. His flat was empty, not cleared out, not packed, just gone. His things and his presence removed so cleanly that the person who managed the building told me it was like he had never been there. I have thought about that sentence on and off for 3 years. The police were polite. They took a report. They found nothing that indicated foul play. After a certain period of time, the assessment was that he had left voluntarily. People do this. People decide to leave and leave. I knew this was true. I also knew Daniel. And the version of Daniel who would leave without a word, without a note, without a single thing that indicated the choice was coming, that version did not match the person who taught me to cook in careful, specific steps, who said you're one of the best people I know at the kitchen table over a dinner that was slightly wrong and genuinely good, who I lived 2 years of ordinary daily life alongside. Those two things did not fit together. I decided, eventually, that I must not have known him as well as I thought. This is the explanation that required the least from me. I filed it. I moved forward. I got very efficient about it. And then I saw his shoulders in a photograph, and the cereal went soft in the bowl. The photograph was part of international case coverage, an organized crime trial, not in this country, in another country, across a significant distance of geography and language. The kind of story that appears in the international section and gets scrolled past by people who do not have a particular reason to stop. The headline was about testimony. The photograph was of a witness being escorted into a courthouse, taken from a distance. The subject's face turned slightly away from the camera at an angle that made identification difficult. His face was partially obscured. His shoulders were not. 3 years I had been carrying the specific shape of his absence, the way he held his body when he was thinking, a particular quality to how he organized himself in space, a slight forward lean, his weight slightly left. I spent the first year missing him in a physical, daily way, the way you miss someone who was present in your space and then isn't. The second year, I moved the grief somewhere lower and quieter. The third year, I stopped checking, stopped looking at the corner of my screen for a message from him, stopped having the small reflex of turning to say something and finding no one there. I thought I was done. My body was not done. I put the phone down. I picked it up. I looked at the photograph. I put the phone down. The cereal was soft. I was not looking at the cereal. I knew before I started reading the article. I read the article anyway. Then I read everything connected to the article. The case coverage, the trial reporting, the background on the organization involved, the timeline of the investigation and how it intersected with witness cooperation. I read for 3 hours on my phone at my kitchen table. My handwriting, I took notes on a pad I use for event prep, was normal the whole time. Consistent, legible, organized. My body held the normal while I was reading things that were not normal. He disappeared on a Tuesday in November. The case timeline had a significant date that Tuesday. I checked this 3 times. The dates matched exactly. He did not leave me. He left on a schedule. These are different things, and I am still learning what the difference costs. I want to tell you about a specific evening before I tell you what I did next, because the specific evening is the center of everything. About a year before he disappeared, maybe 14 months, I'm not exact on this, we cooked dinner at his flat. Not a special occasion. We did this 2 or 3 times a week. He cooked better than I did, but he was patient about teaching me, which is not a quality everyone has. He was patient in the specific way of someone who genuinely believes the other person can learn, rather than the performative patience of someone tolerating your incompetence. He was teaching me the dish his mother made. I don't have a name for it in another language. He always called it something I cannot reproduce, and I always called it the thing you make, and he thought this was funny. It involved a specific spice added at a specific point in the preparation. He was careful about this, explained the timing, explained why it mattered. I was listening. I added the spice too early, before the oil was at the right temperature. I realized immediately, and I looked at him. He said, "It's okay, here's why it matters." And he explained the chemistry of it. What happens when the spice hits oil that is not hot enough? What flavor you lose? He said, "Here's how we adjust." And he told me what to add and when, and how to compensate for the mistake. He was specific. He was not making it a thing. The dinner was not quite right, and it was genuinely good. After dinner, we were talking about something else entirely. I remember we were talking about a film he wanted to see, something I was unconvinced about, a normal, low-stakes domestic discussion. He stopped in the middle of a sentence about the film and he said, "You're one of the best people I know." He said it cleanly, no preamble, no segue. He said it with a quality I noticed at the time but could not name. Something weighted underneath it, something with more gravity than the sentence itself, the feeling of a person saying something true that they need to say out loud regardless of the response. I said thank you. We moved on. I have thought about that sentence for 3 years. After the photograph, I started thinking about it differently. Okay, so the article and then the 3-hour read and then the kitchen table and then the notes in event prep handwriting. What I had, a photograph that I believed showed him. A timeline that matched exactly. The name of a trial and an organization and, in the background of the reporting, a reference to protected witnesses and the timeline of their cooperation. The city I have lived in for 8 years. The social network I have built here. The people I have known and worked alongside and hosted in my flat and been hosted by. 8 years of ordinary daily life. I am very good at building pictures from connection points. It is what my job requires. You take the guest list, and the venue layout, and the catering timeline, and the delivery windows, and you map how they connect, and where the gaps are, And what needs to fill the gaps? You build a picture. You find the thread. I did not want to build this picture. I built it anyway, because the alternative was putting this back in a compartment, and I had already tried that, and the compartment had been open since 7:15 on a Tuesday morning, and some compartments, once opened, do not close the same way twice. What I needed was a machine that was not my usual machine, and a connection that was not my usual connection. This took me 2 days to organize. I had an event the day after the photograph and another the day after that, and both of them needed my full operational capacity, and I gave them that because I had no choice, and because giving them that actually helped. Being fully operational at work kept the other thing contained while I figured out what to do with it. My compartmentalization was earning its keep. On the third day, I went to a coffee shop 3 neighborhoods from my flat. Not a coffee shop I use regularly. I had been there once, 2 years ago, for a meeting that had nothing to do with any of this. I ordered a flat white. I sat in the back corner. I opened a laptop that is not my main machine. It's a second-hand machine I use for personal finance and miscellaneous things that I don't want tied to my work accounts. And I had never used it for anything that felt like this. And I was using it now because I could not think of what else to use. I searched for the case. I found the English language coverage. I read everything there was to read. The notes I took covered 3 pages. Dates, names from the coverage, organizational structure as described in the reporting, timeline of the investigation. I was building the picture. I was being careful and methodical about it the way you are careful and methodical about a complex event, because being careful and methodical was the only tool I had. The first thing I found, his name. His new name. In a clause in one of the older pieces of coverage, a background article from 18 months ago that named protected witnesses by their new identities. A choice that surprised me, that I would have thought inadvisable, but the article explained that the naming was part of a legal process related to the trial's jurisdiction, and that the new names were legally conferred and that this was standard in this particular system. His new name is ordinary. It is a name that belongs to no one in particular, which I think was the point. I looked at it for a long time. Then I wrote it down on the 3rd page of my notes, separately at the bottom. Then I crossed it out, not because I wanted to forget it, because it felt like the kind of information that should not be written in a notebook that could be seen. The second thing I found, the timeline. The date the case moved into the critical pre-trial phase, the date witness cooperation was formalized, the date the extraction process, my word, the article called it relocation, was completed for the cooperating witnesses. That Tuesday in November was inside that window. The exact Tuesday. My event and the catering problem and my phone not being answered, and the polite police officer who took the report. He left on a schedule. Somebody else's schedule, probably. Maybe his own, maybe not. I do not know how much he chose and how much was managed for him. I do not know if he wanted more time and did not get it, or if he had all the time he needed and could not find a way to use it. I have been sitting with both possibilities. Each one is painful in a different way. The third thing I found was the intersection. Peripheral. Partial. The kind of thing you might read past if you were not building a picture. A description. Not a name, a description. Of a person with connections to the organizational periphery of the case. Not involved in the incident, not investigated, present in the background of the organizational structure, a connection of a connection, named in one document and described in the coverage as an associate of an associate with no direct legal exposure. The description was not precise. It covered age range and professional background and city of residence. It matched someone I know. Not conclusively, not enough to say, this is the person. Enough to say, this is a person I need to think more carefully about. His name is Marco. I have known him for 5 years. He came into my social circle through a mutual friend. A casual introduction at a party. The kind of meeting that becomes a normal friendship through accumulation rather than choice. The way city friendships work. He is easy to be around. He does not complicate things. He shows up when he says he will show up. I hosted him at my flat last spring. He brought wine and we talked about his work and my work and a film we had both seen. It was a normal evening. I looked at the description in the coverage for a long time. Then I went back to the evening 2 years before Daniel disappeared. The specific evening of the questions. I had not thought about the questions in a long time. They did not feel, when they happened, like questions. They felt like conversation. We were talking, at dinner or on a walk, I don't remember exactly, but the questions came across 3 separate conversations in the last month before he disappeared, which I have reconstructed now as carefully as I can. He asked about Marco. How long had I known him? How we had met? What he did? Who else in our social circle knew him well? He asked about one other person too. Someone I am less close to. Someone who has moved away since. Someone I have not thought about in over a year. He asked about both of them. In different conversations. In different contexts. I thought he was interested in my life. I thought he was doing what people do when they are with someone. Building a picture of who she is and who the people around her are. The ordinary curiosity of a person who cares about you. I think now he was mapping something. I want to be fair to him when I say this. I want to hold both possibilities. He could have been mapping my social circle because he knew there were people in it connected to the people he was running from, which means he was gathering information. Or he could have been mapping it because he loved me and was trying to understand the full shape of my life before he left it and could not say he was leaving. Both of these are possible. They are not mutually exclusive. I am learning to hold things that are not mutually exclusive. What I cannot hold easily, the possibility that he knew who Marco was and what he was adjacent to, and he spent 2 years in a relationship with me while knowing, and he did not tell me. I cannot land on that. I pick it up and I put it down. I do not know what to do with it yet. The flat white at the coffee shop was cold by the time I closed the laptop. I had been there for 3 hours. My notes covered 4 pages now. I looked at them and I thought about what I was sitting with. I was not in immediate danger. This is what the coverage told me. This is what the assessed risk level suggested. The trial was in another country. The organization had taken significant legal damage. The people with direct exposure had either cooperated or faced charges. The peripheral connections were, as described, peripheral. But I was sitting in my life with the specific knowledge that people in it might be connected to something I had never known about. Something that had extracted the person I was with and left me standing on a Tuesday in November with no explanation. And I did not know who to talk to. Every person I could usually call was either connected to the part of my social network I was now mapping differently, or connected to someone connected to it, or I simply did not know. This is the specific quality of this kind of isolation. It is not that you are alone. It is that you cannot tell who it is safe to be not alone with. I went home. I coordinated an event the next morning. I was very good at it. The second time I went to the coffee shop was 8 days after the first time. 8 days of normal life, work, the ordinary movement of a person whose routine looks unchanged from the outside. 2 events. A dinner with a friend who is not in any part of my social network that I am looking at differently. A friend from before this city, from a previous chapter of my life. Someone whose presence was genuinely restoring and who I was careful not to tell anything specific to. Not because I did not trust her, but because I could not yet tell what was safe to say, and I did not want to involve someone outside this before I understood what I was involving them in. I had found, in the time between the 2 visits to the coffee shop, an organization. Not through any connection I already had. I found them the way you find something when you need it to be separate from everything you already know. Careful searching, careful reading, careful assessment of what they were, and whether they were what they said they were. They handle cases involving peripheral witnesses, people who are not in protection themselves, but have incidental exposure to protected cases, people who are proximate to situations they did not choose and did not know about. They have a secure channel. I used it. I described my situation in general terms. I did not name myself. I did not name anyone in my social network. I described the shape of what I knew, the timeline match, the peripheral description, the questions I was now recasting. They acknowledged my contact. They asked me to call a specific number at a specific time. The call would be better, they said, than continuing through the form. There are things that require a voice. I called from the coffee shop, 3 neighborhoods away, 8 days after the cereal went soft. The call was 22 minutes. The person on the other end was a woman, professional, careful, specific about what she said and did not say. She did not make me feel like I was overreacting. She did not make me feel like I was being dramatic. She asked good questions in a sequence that felt like she was building the same kind of picture I build for events, mapping the connection points and the gaps. I answered everything I could answer. She told me 4 things. 1. What I had described did not constitute immediate risk based on current assessment. This was said carefully. It was not said as dismissal. It was said as a specific evaluation with a specific scope. 2. They wanted to understand more before they could give me a more complete picture. She asked if I would be willing to provide more detail in a follow-up call. I said yes. 3. I should not change my routine visibly. I should not contact the person I had identified as a possible connection. I should not contact local law enforcement without speaking to them first. 4. They would call me in 72 hours. The call ended. I sat in the coffee shop for 10 minutes after it ended. The flat white in front of me was half finished. I looked at it. I thought about the fact that I was no longer entirely alone in this. I had been alone in it since 7:15 on a Tuesday morning, and now I was in contact with people who knew what this looked like and what to do about it. The fear did not go away. The fear had a direction now. That is different. That is significantly different. I went home. I sat at my kitchen table. I was not eating. I had not been eating much in 3 days, which I was noting as a data point and filing for later. I was looking at my phone. I was looking at the party photograph. I had opened the photographs from the years I was with Daniel 8 days before, after the first coffee shop session. Not looking for evidence, or not only. I was looking for him. I have done this before, in the first year after he disappeared, scrolling through photographs at 2 in the morning, trying to find something I could not name. I had stopped. I was doing it again because the compartment was open, and looking is what I do when compartments are open. I found the party photograph in a folder I had not opened since the year he disappeared. A night I remembered vaguely. A large gathering at a mutual friend's flat. The kind of evening that is fun and forgettable and ordinary. Good music and too many people in a medium-sized space, and wine from a box because the hosts were graduate students and everyone was fine with this. I had been there with Daniel. I remembered standing with him near a window and talking to people, and it being a normal party in the way parties are normal when you are 25 and living in a city that is yours and the future is not a particular weight. I went through the faces systematically. It is what I do. Build the guest list, identify the attendees, note the connection points. I found people I was still in contact with. 8 of them, maybe 9. I went through them one by one. 3 of them were in the part of my social network I was now looking at differently. Marco was there. He was standing at the edge of a group, holding a glass, slightly turned away from the camera. He looked young. He was young. So was I. The second person, someone I see less often now, every few months, at the kind of social events that gather the periphery of a social network. Birthdays, moving parties, occasional dinners. I had not thought about her in connection with any of this. I was thinking about her now. The third person, I am less certain about. The connection, in the coverage, is more peripheral. A description that matches in some ways and does not match in others. I have not resolved this one. I am holding it as possible. I looked at the photograph for a long time. Then I closed the app. Then I opened it again. Then I closed it. I am a person who thinks better at tables than in other positions. I noticed this about myself years ago and have accommodated it since, which means most of my serious thinking happens at the kitchen table with a drink I forget to finish. I was at the kitchen table now. I was not drinking anything. The recipe card was on the counter behind me, where it has been for years. The card I wrote out from memory after the dinner where I added the spice too early. His handwriting that I copied, because I thought if I had it in his handwriting, it would help me remember the steps. It is his handwriting and my handwriting at the same time, which is something I only thought about after he was gone. I was thinking about, "You're one of the best people I know." For 3 years, I understood that sentence as, he loved me, he wanted me to know it. It was the kind of thing people say when they love someone. A clean interpretation. Easy to carry. I have been carrying it. I was holding now the possibility that it was also the sentence of a person who knew he was leaving and could not say why and needed to say something true before he went. A sentence said at a specific time with a weighted quality I noticed and did not pursue. A sentence that was perhaps both things at once, genuine love and a specific gravity, the gravity of someone making sure they have said the important thing while they still can. I cannot choose between these interpretations. I have tried. They do not separate cleanly. They are both present, and I cannot make only one of them true. I am also thinking about what I gave without knowing I was giving it. He asked about Marco 3 times in the last month. 3 different conversations, different weeks, different contexts. I was living my normal life. My normal life included Marco, included the party photograph, included the ordinary social network of a person who has been in a city for 5 years and has accumulated the usual cast of people. I gave all of this freely. I gave it the way you give someone access to your life when you love them, not as a specific decision, just as the natural result of being known by someone. I did not know it was something to give carefully. I did not know my proximity to certain people was information. I did not do anything wrong. My normal life was inside something I did not know about. Both of these are true, and I cannot collapse one into the other. The grief of the third category is different from the grief of the first 2. What he kept from me, the situation, the danger, the decision, I can hold that as information and feel what I feel about it, which is a lot of things, which I have been filing for later because later has not come yet. What he gave me, 2 years, the recipe, the sentence, the specific quality of a person who taught you things in careful steps and believed you could learn. I can hold that as what it was, a real thing, regardless of what was also happening. Those 2 categories have shapes I can describe. The third one does not have a shape I can describe yet. Access, proximity, the ordinary openness of a person in love, given to someone who may have needed it for reasons I did not know, received by someone who may have been in a situation he could not tell me about. And I am left holding the question of whether any of what he received was passed further, whether the information of my social network, given openly and in love, moved somewhere beyond the dinner table, whether my ordinary life was useful to someone in a way I cannot fully trace. I put my phone face down on the table. The recipe card was behind me on the counter. I did not look at it. I knew it was there. I have always known it was there. I went to bed. I did not sleep much. In the morning, I coordinated a product launch for 300 people at a venue I have worked with before. I arrived 40 minutes early. The floral delivery was on time. The catering timeline held. I was very good at it. I am always very good at it. The 72 hours passed. The call came at the scheduled time. I was in the park near my flat, on a bench far enough from the path that I could not be easily overheard. I had event notes open on my pad. I do this now, keep the pad out, because writing an event notation looks like work to anyone watching, and I am always working, so this is not unusual. The call was 40 minutes. The same woman. She asked more specific questions. Names, timelines, connection points, the specific geography of how my social network intersected with the case coverage. I answered everything. I was careful and specific. I built the picture for her the way I build pictures for events. She told me 2 things I could act on. She told me 3 things I should not do. She told me they were looking at the connection I had identified. She did not tell me what that meant in terms of outcome or timeline. She told me to continue as normal. The 2 things I could act on were both small. One was a change to my digital routine, minor, explainable as general privacy hygiene if anyone asked, which no one would because no one monitors my digital routine. One was a mild adjustment to a communication habit. Again, small, explainable, invisible to anyone not looking for it. I made both changes the following day. They cost me nothing observable. The 3 things I should not do. Contact Marco directly. Ask questions of anyone in the social network about the connections I had identified. Change my routine in any visible way. I was already not doing any of these things. Confirmation that I was correct not to do them was something. The following week, Marco sent a message about a dinner a mutual friend was organizing. I had a work conflict, which was true. I used it. He replied with the ordinary, disappointed but fine, message of a person whose plans have shifted. Normal. He is always normal. I looked at the message for a while. Then I put my phone down and went back to the event I was preparing. 2 months later, the assessment came back. I was at my kitchen table. The cereal bowl was there. I have eaten cereal at this table every morning for 4 years, a routine so established it is barely a choice anymore. My phone was propped against the coffee mug, the way it always is. I was not scrolling. I was waiting. The call was shorter than the previous ones, 12 minutes. The assessment. The connection identified did not appear to be direct or operational at the current time. The assessed risk level had been reduced from possible elevated to standard background. I asked, "Does that mean I'm safe?" She said, "It means the assessed risk is lower than initially possible." I have been thinking about the difference between those two sentences. I have decided the difference is permanent, that safe is not a word that applies cleanly anymore, and I am going to have to build a life that accommodates this. Not with fear, not with ongoing crisis, just with clarity. Things I did not know are now things I know. Knowing them changes the shape of what I build going forward. That is what knowledge costs, and I am paying it. 3 weeks after the assessment, Marco was at a birthday party for a mutual friend. I went. I had been told the connection was not direct or operational. I had been operating normally for 2 months. I went to the party, and I talked to Marco, and he was the same Marco I have known for 5 years. Easy to be around, not complicating things, holding a glass and talking about his work and a film he had seen. Normal. He has always been normal. I do not know what I see when I look at him now. I looked at him across a birthday party, and I felt the filter I have built in the past 3 months doing its work, and I could not switch it off, and I could not tell if what the filter showed me was real or constructed. The assessment said the connection was not direct or operational. The assessment did not say there was no connection. I am learning to live inside that distinction. I have not made the recipe since before the photograph. The last time I tried, about a year before the photograph, I could not get it right. I didn't know if the problem was technique or memory, if I was making a technical error I couldn't identify, or if the version of the recipe I had was already slightly wrong, already degraded from the original through the act of translation. What happens when you copy something from a person rather than from a page? After the party photograph, I stopped trying. I looked at the card once. I went back to work. I have not tried again. The card is still in my kitchen. His handwriting and mine. The same handwriting because I copied it carefully and tried to get the letters right. Tried to replicate the way he formed the letters that named the steps of the thing his mother made. I walk past it every morning on my way to the table. I do not look at it directly. I know it is there. I am not ready to throw it away. I do not know what throwing it away would require me to decide. Whether the dinner was what I thought it was or something more complicated. Whether the sentence at the kitchen table was love or also departure. Whether what I gave was given freely or taken as something useful. I do not need to decide these things to continue. I have learned this in the past 3 months. You can continue without resolution. The professional version of this is putting things in compartments. The personal version is something different, and I am still learning its name. He is 34. He is somewhere. He has a name that does not belong to me. He knows my shoulders the way I know his. Or maybe not. Maybe the version of me he remembers is already a version he has filed, a chapter he closed because he had to. I do not know this. I cannot know this. What I know, I am 29 and I have a job I am good at, and a city I have lived in for 8 years, and a social network I am looking at with different eyes than I used to have. I have a kitchen table where I think better than anywhere else. I have a recipe card I walk past every morning without looking at it directly. I do not know which people in my life were connected to something I did not know about. I do not know if the connection was incidental or useful. I do not know if he knew, when he asked about Marco 3 times in the last month, what he was asking about. I have 2 versions. He knew, and I was in a geometry he understood and I did not. He did not know, and it was coincidence, and the geometry was nobody's, just the accidental intersection of a person he loved and a world he was trying to leave. Both versions are possible. Both are painful in different ways. I have stopped trying to choose between them. Some things do not close. I have a professional relationship with this truth. An event coordinator understands that some variables do not resolve, that you can run a successful event and still have a thread that did not connect the way you planned. That closure is a professional courtesy the world does not always extend. I am applying this to the other parts of my life now. The application is imperfect. I am working on it. The card is in my kitchen. I know it is there. I will decide what to do with it when I am ready to make that decision. I am not ready yet.